What's up, guys? Buddy Jackson here, and finally it's time for the Warmage guide. So, as I always said, guys, I won't do guides for classes which I didn't play that much. So, obviously, I'm gonna do this for Warmage because that's one of the classes I played the most, or maybe the only class I played really much, guys. So, let's start with the Warmage guide. So first, what we're gonna talk, or what I'm gonna explain today about Warmage. I'm gonna give you an overview about Warmage, and then I'm gonna talk about the soul skills, especially which you need for Warmage, and then the artifacts. And we're also gonna go through the gear. I will explain the stats you need and which set items you should go for, which are viable, and which gems you need. And at the end, we're also going to talk about the skills, which skills you should pick, and which skills are good for PvE, and which skills should be good for PvP, and obviously which cards you should pick for which situation. So let's start with the overview. The Warmage is actually a pretty squishy class, so how you're gonna survive is, or how long you're gonna survive depends on your reaction time and your mobility spells. So it's all about dodging. It's really hard to face tank or to take more than 2 hits later on the endgame content as a Warmage, so you need a decent amount of reaction time and a little bit of skill, of course. So, which soul skills do you need as a Warmage? Which soul skills should you go first or skill first as a Warmage? The first skill you should skill as a Warmage is critical rate, because that's one of the important stats which you're gonna need as a Warmage. And then you should definitely go for the 30 points in health. As I explained on other guides, this is gonna be really important, especially because you're squishy and you're gonna deal a lot of damage. With this spell, you're gonna leech a lot of HP and survive much longer. And you won't only depend on your cooldowns on your potions. So take this as the second skill, only up to 30 points, and after that you should go for attack. So first crit rate, second health, third attack, and then you can go for either crit damage, penetration, and cooldown reduction. Those are the viable stats which you also need. So gonna take a while until you have so much skill points to skill all those stuff, but you should know for the beginning crit rate, 30 points health, and the rest to attack. Those are the things you should know for the start. And later on, if you have more experience, you will know which stats you need. So let's move on to the artifacts. So as you can see, I have already Hysteria equipped. And for Hysteria, it's one of the best artifacts for Warmage. It's actually one of the best artifact for, or the best artifact for damage dealer classes like Blader and Whisperer. So, but the problem is Hysteria only gives you a boost after a certain level. I would say around level 30, 40. And you also need a decent amount of crit chance. So the crit chance cap is 30%, and I would suggest you to get at least 20% before you equip the Hysteria. So which artifacts you're gonna use before you have the needed crit chance? I would suggest you should go for either for Rainbow or for Frenzy. So, and after you have decent amount of crit chance, Frenzy won't be that helpful anymore. You should go for Hysteria. And depending on situations, so let's say in the end content you struggle to stay alive, maybe you should change your artifact to Rainbow then, so that you have much more sustain, because you're gonna get evasion buff with this Rainbow, and you're gonna still have a decent amount of damage, but you won't deal that amount of damage compared like Hysteria. if the Hysteria at level 20 affects procs. So, for example, you're in a dungeon, you have a decent Dark Lord who keeps the aggro, and you just need to deal damage and focus less on evading stuff. Go for Hysteria and wreck them up, guys. So if the Hysteria procs, you're gonna deal a huge amount of damage. But if you're in a dungeon without a Dark Lord, or without a Dark Lord who can't keep the aggro, or with the Dark Lord who can't keep the aggro, just go for Rainbow. You will lose a little bit of damage, but still it's worth it, and it's better than the other artifacts. Which means you should level up Hysteria and Rainbow. Just don't just level up Hysteria. So you should level up Hysteria and Rainbow upon hitting Hysteria on level 100. You should swap and start to grow Rainbow. So, the next thing we're gonna talk about are the stats. So let's look at the stats window here. We have attack speed. It's an okay stat, so it's not like it's useless, but take it if you have it. But you shouldn't focus on attack speed or accuracy here. Accuracy, as long as you have more than 100%, it should work. Crit rate, the #1 focus stat. So crit rate is the stat which you're gonna focus first and try to get to cap as soon as possible. So 30% is cap. Crit damage is a okay stat. You can focus on that after reaching, getting the crit rate at cap and cooldown reduction at cap. So as the crit rate and cooldown reduction are the most important stats for you, first crit rate and then cooldown reduction. Even if you have low cooldowns as a Warmage, every second counts. So even if this skill only has 10 seconds cooldown, with 50% cooldown reduction, only 5-second cooldown, so this skill will last for 4 seconds, and you will have only 1 second downtime, and then you're gonna cast it again. So it will boost your DPS a lot. So first crit rate, second cooldown reduction. And then you can go for critical damage. Those stats, you won't need those stats. MP cost reduction is okay, but you shouldn't focus on that. Evasion is nice to have. You won't focus on HP. You won't focus on shield proc rate. And CC time reduction is their, let me see, first, second, third, the fourth important stat. Because if you get CC'd, you're done. Actually, in the end game, if you get hit by a CC effect and the boss hits you once, you're most likely dead. So the CC time reduction will help you to survive longer. So now let's talk about the gear. So as you can see, I have a mix of mythic gear and set items. You should also, the reason why I don't have more set items is obviously because I don't have any matching set items. First you're gonna go for legendary, obviously, because those are the items you're gonna get at the beginning. And don't try to reroll those, because they are just a stepstone until you get ancient or mythic items. And on mythic items, let's talk about the parts here. So you can get crit rate on the helm and on the gloves as possible stats. So look at my gloves. I had attack speed on it and crit damage and the useless stuff. Useless stat. So I rerolled the useless stat because on gloves you can have crit rate as a possible stat. You can't have crit rate on all of those equipment, as I said, because you can only have it on gloves and helm. So here on helm I had already on my helm, I had already crit rate as a stat, so I rerolled the third one to accuracy. I want to reroll it for something else, but the problem is to reroll set items you need rare material. That's why I didn't reroll another once more to get something like cooldown reduction. Yeah, cooldown reduction is a good option here, as I said. So helm and gloves, go for crit rate. If there's crit rate, get the cooldown reduction, because cooldown reduction, you can get it on all your equipment. So crit rate on helm, and then as second stat, cooldown reduction, and as third stat, if you have crit rate and cooldown reduction, go for the substats and reload the CC time reduction on it. So I don't have here the CC time reduction as a substat. So if I had on this glove here crit rate and cooldown reduction already as a fixed stat, or as a stat which it had from the beginning, I would have rerolled the substats and hoped for a CC time reduction, or a high CC time reduction. So what you're gonna roll on those pieces here. So you can, those are the only pieces, so the shoulders, the chest, the pants, and the shoes. On those you can have evasion. So if you don't have evasion on those, and if you don't have cooldown reduction on those, you should obviously go for cooldown reduction first as a Warmage. If you have already cooldown reduction on those, you can try to get evasion, or reroll a useless stats evasion. And if you have both and of the on those, let me see if I have evasion and crit somewhere. Nope, I don't have that. You should obviously go for the substats and reroll their CC time reduction. I hope that was clear, guys. And here you can see I have already, this is a unique item. They have those red squares. Red squares to the left for movement speed and HP means those are fixed stats, which means they are on max. You will get max amount of percent which you can get for that stat. As you can see, movement speed plus 10%, HP plus 10%, but you can't reroll those. The only stat I could reroll was the middle one, so I rerolled it to cooldown reduction, as you can see. And I had luck with that item because it has as the substat already CC time reduction. So what about the accessories here, guys? So obviously cooldown reduction on all of those. You can't have a crit chance or crit chance on those, so you obviously try here, like this one here. This one is a unique one also, so the attack and the evasion and movement speed are maxed and can't be rerolled, and I rerolled the fourth one because it was, I think, a useless one, to cooldown reduction. Here you can see I had already cooldown reduction, I have HP, I have attack, those are decent stats, so I reroll to crit damage. So you can also get crit damage on the accessory. And here the same, you can see here crit damage, HP, and all damage reduction. I wanted to reroll instead of crit damage cooldown reduction, but I didn't have enough mats for that. So you should go here also for cooldown reduction, guys. So what about the weapon? Same goes for the weapon. Here you should try to get crit rate and crit damage if you can, and I think cooldown reduction is also possible. So those are, like everything else, get those main stats, and if you already have those, reroll the substats. Look at my weapon here, it has already CC time reduction, so I didn't need to reroll that one. But here I have, look at, that's a good one, attack speed 5%, crit rate 4%, and HP, so I won't reroll my main stats. So I'm gonna reroll my substat to CC time reduction as soon as I have the mats. So now we're gonna talk about the set items. That's some end game stuff here. So, but I'm gonna give you some infos about the sets which you can get and which are the viable one for the Warmage. So this stat here, which will give you, you see, I can't see the name. It's too long, guys, so that's the name is too long, so, or the text, info text is too big, so I can't see the name. So you will see the set effect here. This set is actually really good for Warmage. Decrease the hallucinatory infection cooldown time by 20%. This is this skill here. I'm gonna go through those skills later. And creates a chance to decreasing Spectre MP cost damage by 20%, inflicting 200% additional damage. Spectre is a skill for ulti card skill, so I'm gonna call those ulti skill because those are skills from the cards which you're gonna pick later, and that's also a good spell. And the 6 item set effect is hallucinatory infection. If successfully hitting its target, creates a chance to inflicting 500% additional damage and resetting its cooldown. That's insane, guys. So you're gonna depend a lot of this skill here because it's gonna it won't only deal much high damage. It will gonna also give you back some mana of 25% of your max mana if you kill an enemy, which is affected by this skill. So this is a must-have skill to maintain your mana pool. So, which skill set is also viable? So this one is actually, in my opinion, not that good. This is a Meteor set, so this is gonna change some stuff with Meteor. I won't go through that set here. You can read it here, but I won't suggest to go for that set there. This is the most picked set in Korea, at least. Especially for the 2-set effect. You can go for 2-set effect here and get the 4-set effect, so 2 equipment from this set and 4 from this set, to have mixed set here. So the 2-set effect is to decrease the Bloodfest cooldown time by 20%. Bloodfest is a really important skill. It will deal damage, but the important part is it will make you invincible for 2 seconds. Something like 2 seconds. So if you have 50% cooldown reduction already on your stats here and get the additional 20%, so just think about it, you will have it back up again pretty fast. And the 4-set effect here on this set is actually not that good. So as long as you have the Spectral Shield, you will have an increased amount of crit damage. That's okay, not that important. And Mana Discharge, this 6-set effect is also just, I won't go for that. So this 2-set effect of this set is really important, guys. So those are the sets I had until now. I don't know if there are more than those sets, but I'm pretty sure those are the sets. Those 2 sets are the most used one in Korea, and it makes sense for me too. Okay, now let's talk about the gems. It's actually really short, so try to get the highest gems as possible. Check my crafting guide. I went through the gems there at the end and explained the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 gems. As soon as you can craft the next tier of the gems, do it and equip it. So even if you have this one is a tier 2 gem, which will morph a skill. Sorry, this one is a tier 3 gem, which morphs a skill. For example, this one morphs Power Slash here. So this is the morphed version of Power Slash. Even if I don't use it, I still upgraded it to tier 3 because it's gonna boost my CP. It's still better than tier 2 version because of the CP boost. Okay, so now let's move on to the skills, guys. So the most asked question for me in stream or YouTube video was, what should I play? Shall I play the 2-hand staff Warmage or the magic sword Warmage? I would say it depends on your playstyle. This one is more a close combat Warmage. You have to stay or you should stay close to the mobs or within 7 meters, as you can see here. Every basic skills here, those will give you mana back. So those are your mana skills. So they will get a 10% attack boost if you are within 7 meters, all of them. That is their magic sword specialization, guys. And the 2-hand staff is more like a ranged one. You're gonna get a 10% damage boost if you're further than 8 meters away. So that's, just check it out, guys. The advantage of having the dual wield, so the magic sword and the book, is you're gonna have slightly more CP if you have the same enchantment level on both of the offense. Let's say if you have it on +7 sword and +7 book, will have in total more CP than their two-hand stuff on +7. But it's much easier and less luck dependent to enchant two-hand stuff to +7, because here you have to enchant 2 items to +7, and here you only have to enchant 1 item or 1 weapon to +7. So check it out at the beginning. Equip your trash staff or sword and book. Try it out which skill you prefer and pick it. So before I go through all those skills, I'm gonna say, after I explained all those skills, I'm gonna say if it's viable in PvP or in PvE, or if it's useless. If it's useless, I'm gonna just skip it. I won't explain that much what it's gonna do. So the fire clutch. This is actually a really good skill for PvP and PvE, especially if you're using Hysteria, because it will cause a dot damage, and you can spam it as long as you have mana. And the dot damage has a chance to trigger your Hysteria effect, so the 400% additional damage. So this is a viable one. This one is Radiant Chain. They changed it compared to CBD2. It's not a charge skill anymore, as you can see here. It was a charge skill, but now they changed it. It's just a crap, so it's not viable anymore. And there is actually, yeah, that's why I won't talk about that. And Power Slash. Nope. Even if the set item, oh no, the tier 3 game morphs that skill, it's get even stronger, but it's still not viable. The next one is here, Fire Curtain, a must-have skill for PvE. Not for PvP, because it's easy to dodge. Not only stupid players will stay in the Fire Curtain, so it's not that good in PvP, but important or must-have in PvE. This is the Cold Murder. It's not that good for PvE, but it's good for PvP, because not only it does damage, it's gonna also stun everyone around you. So as you can think, it's really good or viable for PvP. Full Throttle, one of the must-have skills, because it's one of the mobility spells. And you're gonna after you do teleport, so you can teleport a distance. You will get invisible or stealth status for 1.5 seconds. Which can help you a lot in PvE and PvP, so a must-have skill. I won't talk about this one, it's a crap skill, so yeah. Spectral Shield, viable in PvE and in PvP, depending on the situation. So most likely I'm gonna take it in PvP every time with me, but in PvE it depends on the situation. So if you take too much damage and it's hard to survive, you should go for this one and swap out of one of the other skills. Bloodfest, as I already said, this is a must-have skill for PvE and PvP. Binding Blizzard is a must-have for PvE, but it's an okay skill for PvP. Like the other skills, if you place it on the ground, maybe you can get two ticks on enemy player in PvP, but only stupid people will stay in there. Cruel Touch, skip, nope, not worth it. Mana Eraser, not worth it. Dance Macabre, still worth it, guys. It's the third, here's the first, second, and the third mobility spell. And depending on the situation, you can take it for PvP, but I won't go for that in PvE. So PvP, it's worth it. PvE, nope. This one is actually a really fun spell. So this is a must-have in PvE, but in PvP, on one-on-one fights, I would prefer another spell. But if you are on a guild war, this will increase your damage a lot, guys, because it will affect everyone, and it's an instant cast, so it's not like they have to stay in there, and so you're gonna get that dot on a lot of players. If you try to get the dot on a lot of players as possible. So this will deal a huge amount of damage, and if they die, you're gonna get mana back. And they will also spread it to nearby players if they die with this dot here. Okay, so for all those skills here, you're gonna have, for example, here you have to go, or you should take crit rate, crit damage, and cooldown reduction here as where is cooldown reduction? Oh, maybe I'm wrong here. So maybe I didn't have this. Oh, skill duration. This one, skill duration or cooldown reduction as the third one. So very important, crit rate and crit damage. There's only one exception, and that is this skill here, and two exceptions actually. Here I have the damage cap, damage reduction cap. So this is gonna reduce the damage which you will get. So you should go for the damage reduction and buff duration, so that the shield will last longer. And here I have the cooldown reduction. Same goes for the hallucinatory infection. So obviously you're gonna go for the skill duration plus 20%. The MP recovery, so I won't get only 25%, I will get 37% of my MP back every time something dies with this buff on it, and the crit rate. So now let's talk about the cards. This card here, the Confusion card, is a must-have card, because it's important for PvP and PvE. It's gonna reduce the defense of nearby players, enemy players, and enemies by 20%. So must have. I'm gonna talk about Spectre. Okay, let's talk about it now. Spectre is one of the ultis I use to clear weak mobs. So for tower, for the first few stages on tower or on Blood Castle, I'm gonna use it to clear. Just clears trash mobs or weak mobs. It won't work if you are fighting on against a boss or 3 or 2 mini boss. Then you should swap the skill out for single target damage or focus damage spells. This is a AoE spell which will hit everything on your screen. So that's why I picked this one for killing a trash mob. So the next must-have skill is this one here. Because this one can give you every 10 skill, will deal 20% increased damage, and that's huge, guys. So that's one of the must-have skills, and especially because of Glacier Prison, this one is a pretty good skill for PvP. I don't use it for PvE, but situational, in some situation you should go for that. I'm gonna explain it later on if I go through my skill bar. So, as a third one, I picked this one because it's gonna decrease cooldown. So it's gonna decrease the cooldown of all my skills by 5%. So additionally 5% cooldown reduction. And this ulti skill, I didn't use that one really often. So you should take this card for this passive effect. Let's talk about the other cards which you can unlock. So this one is useless, guys. Even if it sounds cool, it's still useless. This one is viable, but I would prefer either taking this here for decreasing your cooldown reduction instead of getting max HP and 5% more defense. Because as a Warmage, you will have, even if you get 10% more HP, you will still have not that high amount of HP, and your defense is also crappy. Those 5% won't help you that much. This one is actually, you can swap this card here for this one here, because this one will decrease your MP cost of all your skills by 10%, and Meteor is a good skill, but I would suggest you shouldn't use that on PvE, because you're gonna knock back all the mobs, and it's gonna make it hard for the group to focus damage. So last but not least, I'm gonna go through my skill bar guys, and I'm gonna explain which spell you should swap depending on the situation. So, Fire Curtain, must have for PvE. Binding Blizzard, must have for PvE. Bloodfest, must have, and as if you go for Sword and Book, you should go for this spell this is the best spell for Swollen Book, guys. So this is my slot which I change depending on situation. If I have the feeling I take too much damage in PvE, I will get the Spectral Shield here. If I have decent tanks and I don't need to worry about my HP, I will take this one here for additional damage and additional chance to proc my Hysteria. And you can also go for a really safe build, which will be the Spectre, not the Spectre, the Spectral Shield and the Glacier Prison. So you will have this as an invincible skill. So, and to dodge, you will also have the teleport to dodge, and you will additionally have the Glacier Prison, which will make you invincible for 3 seconds and deal some damage here. So this is the really safe build, and additionally you will also have the shield. We are talking about the PvE stuff here. So now for PvP. For PvP, as I said, this one can help you a lot. And if it's crits, it's gonna crit for a high number of times, because you can see the numbers there, 507% dot damage. And as I said, Spectral Shield is also important for PvP. The only one you should definitely change for PvP is the Fire Curtain. And you should either go for Dance Macabre. So this one is a viable one, or a really good one. So you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive skills, and you will still deal a lot of damage, especially with Dance Macabre, with this one, with Bloodfest, with Hallucination. So if you have the feeling I have too much mobility spells and too low damage, no guys, that's wrong. They will deal a lot of damage, and it's all about surviving as a Warmage in PvP, because you're gonna crit. If you crit them, they're gonna go down pretty fast. So, but on the other hand, if they get you, you're gonna die fast. That's why you have so many survivability spells. And as I said here, let's switch back. I forgot something. As I said, for clearing trash mobs, I'm gonna swap this one out for Spectre. Spectre goes here for PvE. And as soon as I have cleared trash mobs or weak mobs in tower, after I reach a certain stage, I'm gonna swap this for Spectral Shield or for Fire Clutch, depending on the situation. So let's yeah, and also, as I said, the Cold Murder is a viable PvP skill too. I forgot to swap it, so maybe you should go for, let me show you an example for a PvP bar. So this is gonna be one of your PvP bars. So either that for more damage and CC, or for more survivability, I would change the Cold Murder or the Hallucination for Glacier Prison. Okay guys, sorry that it took so long, but I mean, it was a lot of stuff to explain. And this is actually a last minute Warmage guide. The server's gonna be online tomorrow, and we're surprised, guys. I'm gonna play Dark Lord in the OBT. I'm gonna stream from the beginning. So if you have any questions, you can ask in the stream, and I'm gonna explain actually a lot of stuff for my teammates in my group. And there are actually a lot of stuff also which I don't or didn't explain or didn't want to explain in the guides here, because I wanted to give my guildmates and myself an advantage. So if you stick with us, maybe you will learn some new stuff. And if not, thanks for watching my guides, guys. And sorry if most of my guides were too long, but I really tried to explain every details. So, and also thanks for the likes and the supports, guys. Maybe you're gonna see us again in the next guide or on the stream. Bye bye, guys.